Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Will Simpson, and today we'll be talking about elevating your professional game. So thank you so much for joining me. Now, a little bit about me. I am not only an Upwork Event Manager, as some of you who have been on some of these events may know me, and I'm also an independent graphic designer on the platform and have been for quite a while. I am very passionate about this topic, as you may have noticed from previous events, and I've spent a lot of this time working with Upwork, not just on Upwork, speaking to a whole bunch of really high caliber, talented folks, and I thought it was about time for me to share my learnings and actionable items that I thought were useful. So the topics we're going to be covering today are some strategies, skills, and actionable items that I've encountered both by interviewing amazing professionals from around the world and also in my own journey as a freelancer on Upwork. And I believe the topics we will discuss here today are applicable to a range of situations. Whether you are really looking to secure your first job here on Upwork, or if you already have quite a few jobs under your belt and you're really looking to level up the caliber of clients you're working with and perhaps the price you're charging, and really get that to be a consistent thing you can secure. So know that this event is being recorded and will be available in the community events section of Upwork. Let me just post that link here in the chat. So feel free to take the time today to engage with us, not just myself, the other people here in the chat, and let's see what we can learn from each other along the way. I really enjoy interactive engagement. Now, since it is just me today on this event, it's a little harder for me to watch the chat and talk, but I will try and dip in and out of there. But feel free to participate. I'll be watching the Q&A, the general, as much as I can. And a quick note, once this event concludes, you will find a feedback request in your email inbox. I request that you take a minute to provide that feedback, because it really is instrumental in helping me really evolve these events for future iterations and provide the content on topics that help you grow in your business and find success on Upwork. So please keep an eye out for that and let me know your thoughts. So my first introduction to Upwork years ago was actually not on the independent professional side, the freelance side. It was actually as a client. I was hiring talent such as yourself to help me handle overflow projects for the tech company I was working with at the time. Now, I had too many projects to get done in too little time. Anyone that's worked in startups probably feels that quite closely. So I explored hiring help on Upwork, and I quickly realized what a powerful tool it was. Fast forward to today, I've been freelancing on the platform for about 4 years now, and have achieved what I personally measure as success, which for me is I have plenty of work, I enjoy what I do, I love my book of clients, and about 90% of my design work is really repeat business at this point. And I get to live a lifestyle where I enjoy my free time and work in a balanced measure, which was not the case in my previous work. And one of the major aspects which has helped me and consistently everyone else that I've interviewed to achieve their own definitions of success has been the ability to really put ourselves in our target client's shoe and view interactions from their perspective. So let's take a minute to examine a typical client setup. So why am I the client coming to Upwork? It's either typically because I need help with the skills to do the job, like I don't know how to code, so I need to hire a coder, or maybe I do know how to code, but I don't have time to complete the job. I've got all this massive project to do, and this is just one aspect. Perhaps I'm looking to expand my existing workforce, or perhaps I'm brand new to Upwork, or maybe this is a familiar tool. These are important things to understand when you're about to interact with a client, whether you're crafting the proposal, whether this is your overview. If you're thinking from the client perspective, it's very helpful. So the client on the platform, what am I looking for? I'm looking for simplicity. I'm not looking for another darn tool to complicate my day. I want to be able to lock it in, hand it off, and feel confident that it's coming back to me as I need it in the time that I need it. I'm looking for value. That does not mean necessarily that I'm looking for the lowest rate. Some people are looking for the lowest rate. A lot of people, though, are looking for a good value. I'm happy to pay the money, but I want you to really make it a good experience. I want it to be quality results. It doesn't matter what area you're working in. And I will say, just pausing for a moment, a lot of what I will say may be coming to you from a lens of my experience as a graphic designer, but I tried to make sure that the advice that I'm giving is very general in the sense that it's applicable to sort of whatever department you work in. Customer support, coding, translating, you name it. So back to what I'm looking for as a client. I'm looking for professional input. it's very easy as an independent professional for us to get the feeling of that imposter syndrome. I know I've been guilty of it. I'm still guilty of it. Um, you know what? I see so many talented people, whether it's interviewing or just perusing around the site itself, and it's very easy to get that imposter syndrome. But when the client is hiring, when they're hiring you, they're really trusting that you are the professional, and you are. You know what you're doing. You've done this for previous clients, or you put in the work to learn the tools and the processes. So be the professional. I'm also looking for confidence that my project will be handled appropriately. While it may just be one of the projects you're handling, to me, it's very important. It may be a piece, as I mentioned earlier, of a much larger project that I have to deliver to my boss. So I want to make sure that I'm feeling confident about the person I choose to work with. Then, what makes the client happy? What makes me happy? What do I value in my decision to work with an independent professional? Obvious ones are clear communication, uh, confidence in the workflow. If I'm working with someone, they say, "Well, we'll start here and we'll just see how it goes." That doesn't fill me with joy. I'd like to know, hey, step one is we're going to do this. I'm going to need these items from you, and then we're going to have 3 rounds of review, and then I'll give you the deliverable in a nice packaged bow. Things like that. But I want to make sure I'm looking for quality delivery and consistent and timely delivery. One of the traps that so many of us fall into is trying to be all things to everyone. And yes, I can do it now. Yes, I can do it now, regardless of what the truth is. One of the strange results of COVID and the majority of the world going online, and the workforce sort of shifting from in-person to remote in a general sense, is that people are a little bit more understanding now of the fact that we are all humans with our own agenda. Maybe you have to pick up your kids from school at 3 p.m. and drop them off in the morning. That's fine. People are a lot more understanding about that now. But we, as workers in this new scenario, need to get more comfortable in feeling okay putting that foot forward, setting those polite boundaries and saying, yes, I'm happy to do these projects for you, but I'm not going to do it between this hour and this hour because I have other engagements. So it's something that we need to get used to training the client on and being comfortable providing. But ultimately, that comes back to, are you delivering what you say you can deliver when you said you can deliver it? Where if we're promising the moon and saying we're available 24/7, we're going to mess up. We're going to miss some of those. So something to keep in mind. So I want to think through a scenario as we sort of set the stage for some of our next topics. I'm a client. I post my job on Upwork. I quickly get 50 proposals by the time I check out the responses a few hours after posting. How do I go about deciding who I'm going to chat with? I start off typically by shortlisting who hit the necessary skill check boxes, like if I need specific software knowledge, for example, who had a title and intro sentences that were engaging and relatable. And conversely, I can easily remove the prospects with titles and intros that immediately turn me off the idea of working with them, like an obvious copy and paste, just uninspired. Never do a copy and paste proposal. It doesn't work. So with the remaining 15 people, based on that initial sort of quick scan, I look at who's telling a story that's most similar to my situation and my needs. Did you work with clients in the same industry? Did you describe a workflow or a situation that is pretty darn close to what I'm needing or hoping to solve for? Did you happen to mention a pain point that I'm specifically looking to avoid? These are all facilitated in the avenues that we're going to be discussing today in the overview, portfolio, proposals. But that pain point is a really good one. For those that are familiar working in a specific industry, I'll use mine as an example, graphic design. There's common pain points. For instance, if you're designing for print, someone's making a banner, the pain point that's typically there is the file needs to be calibrated a certain way for the printer to be successful. So I need to think about those pieces around there. And I may put in my proposal saying, hey, if you're designing for print, don't worry. I've worked with plenty of print companies. I'll make sure that the file that you get is ready to turn around. It's a known pain point in the industry. I'm sure you have plenty that you know of in your own industries. If you have any that come to mind, feel free to drop them in chat. I love to hear about them. It's good to know what the main talking points are in these different verticals. So when you work in a traditional company, as opposed to independent professional, there are usually various departments. You have HR, you have accounting, you have sales, engineering, you name it, each with their own roles and responsibilities. However, as an independent professional, you are all of those departments for your business of one. You may be a fantastic coder. You may do the cleanest transitions and the most engaging copywriting. or perhaps you design jaw-dropping logos. But if you don't know how to connect with clients in a way that resonates with them, you're going to have a tough time getting traction with your prospective clients. If you don't know how to price your work as you grow and you upskill, you'll end up getting burnt out on too many low-paying or arduous jobs. So during the following sections, as we dive into some key elements of successfully landing quality projects on Upwork, I'd like you to keep this client perspective in mind. Why is a client posting here? What do they need to hear from me, see, or experience to get that warm and fuzzy feeling they just found their perfect match to work with? A thought came to mind as I was putting this deck together over the last few weeks, that the freelance sort of work interaction has a little bit of similarity between like a dating app or like a Tinder, where there's sort of that emotional swipe right or swipe left upon the first impression, and it's there's a lot of differences, don't get me wrong, but there is a similar sort of feel about it, and it is an important step. So just something funny that came to mind there. Before we dive into profiles, I just wanted to say a quick note about finding your niche. One of the first and foremost tasks you want to get sorted out, if you haven't already, if you have already, good for you, but is identifying your niche. This is a specific type of work you're looking to do, or perhaps a specific industry that you're looking to serve, like high tech or something like that. The sooner you figure out what your niche is, the more targeted you can be in your efforts. And I personally don't know of a better way than just trying out a bunch of things and finding out what you love and finding out what you hate. I would love to hear any thoughts you have on how you found your niche, if different than its approach. Feel free to drop it in the chat there. But as with a lot of things in life, I find what I want by discovering things that I don't want or burn me out or don't spark joy in that sense, So let's dive into evolving your profile overview. For a lot of us, talking about ourselves can be a bit awkward, like hearing your own voice on a recording. And yes, even though I do love a microphone and an engaging group to talk to, I hate hearing myself recorded. It's no fun. So that aside, let's look at this clinically. In pretty much all client interactions, it's important to get to the point quickly. That is not to say you need a super brief overview necessarily. Just know that if you don't have their attention within the first few sentences or within the title, you won't be reading, the client won't be reading the rest of it. So get to the point quickly and then expand where you feel necessary later on. Consider the same sort of logic of that TLDR that you'll see on things like Reddit. For those not familiar, TLDR is an acronym for too long, didn't read. So let's say you have a 2 pages of information. At the top, the TLDR will be 2 sentences giving you the cliff notes. So sometimes that's a valuable approach, just to make sure that when they're doing that first initial skim of, hey, the 50 people I need to figure out if I'm going to hire, at least you got to the point quickly, and then you can expand later. So now, while at the same time of keeping it brief, it is important to paint a clear picture to your prospective client. Expecting a client who is skimming many proposals and profiles to connect dots that are not specifically lined out is a gamble that may not be successful. This could be challenging to do when we're trying to get to the point quickly, I know, but most clients are skimming for a quick yes or no before they dive deeper on their short list of candidates. So I wanted to provide an example. So let's use the first example. I could write, I am well versed in Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. Now this is true. These are all industry standards in the vertical I work with, graphic design. Most of the clients know what those are. All the people working in that industry should know what it is. But it's I statements. I'm well versed in Photoshop, Illustrator, and design. I'm expecting the client to figure out that this relates to them. So let's take an adaptation of this, a more evolved way of painting that picture. I could write, I leverage my decade of experience in design software like Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign to ensure my client projects are professionally crafted and ready for use on whatever medium, digital or print, that the client is looking for. Now, while that is a longer sentence, I've painted a picture not about what I like to do, about your project as the client. It's a great exercise to change your I do this, I know how to do this, and change it into we use this tool for your project to accomplish X, Y, and Z, whatever that means for you in whatever you do. But making a commentary about your client, about your client's project, and how these skills will make it good, make it easy, make it convenient, whatever you're selling. It's a great way to rephrase some of what you're putting in your overview. So notice how I told a story in the second example. I didn't expect them to think through that me being good at XYZ programs necessarily equals me considering their output requirements. So how can I figure out how to paint a clear picture that gets the point for my across for my target clients? I like to start by seeing what my prospective clients are saying and what top performers in my niche are also saying. So keep in mind that oftentimes clients are on Upwork because they don't have the specific skill set necessary to accomplish their goal. So if you understand this, it's not surprising when clients are not necessarily familiar with how to specifically describe what they need, or maybe familiar with specific industry terminology. So it's a good idea to take some time to look at the clients you'd love to be working for. What are the consistencies in how they're talking, and how they're describing the type of work they're looking for, or the process or experience they're looking to have? Find the consistent themes. Then take a look at the top rated professionals in your industry on Upwork. You can look through the different filters there, looking at talent, and you can see what are they doing that's consistent. You find the overlap between those two, and you've got some really good ingredients to work with. So when you see that there are consistent skill tags, for example, on both the client posting and on the top performing folks that are looking at these jobs, are these skills that you have? If not, these might be great areas for you to focus on upskilling. Or if these are areas that you already know, consider highlighting it because they're a hot topic or a buzzword, if you will. Okay. Sarah, I love your comment there. I'm going to get to that actually in just a moment. That's a great question, Sarah. Thank you. Let me see here. Let's move on. Actually, right now we're getting into it. So specialized profiles. For those that are familiar with specialized profiles, give us just a moment. It is a very important topic. I want to make sure everyone's on the same page here. In case you aren't familiar with specialized profiles, this is a super important topic to touch on. We get to utilize 3 profiles within our account. Our main profile, which everyone's probably already made, and then 2 specialized profiles. And you get to select which one is presented to the client when you apply for a project. So as an example, for myself, I have my main generalized graphic design, real open-ended profile. And then I have one specialized profile that's for branding and one specialized profile that's for deck creation. These are my 2 niches that I really dial in on. I discovered I like focusing on these 2 areas by doing jobs in pretty much every area of design that I could, and quickly realizing many of them really burnt me out and I hated them. So I didn't want to do them. Hate is a strong word. I wasn't energized when thinking about doing those projects, which honestly, now that I am in a position where I am energized about my projects, I will always choose that direction, even if it takes a little bit longer to get there. You can also use these specialized profiles to do some A/B testing on what clients respond best to, which is a sort of creative way to use these while you figure things out. Experiment with different titles, intro sentences, or try reordering the aspects of your story in these different A/B tests, and try sending out 10 proposals with one profile and 10 proposals with the other profile. And notice, did you get more responses with one than the other? Great, then use that one and then do some additional testing. Repeat the cycle until you consistently get what you're looking for. So you may see a common theme so far in much of what I'm suggesting. It requires a bit of research, a bit of trial and error, and significant homework, which typically does not really equate to dollars earned immediately. But this is how we elevate our professional game, folks. Consciously setting aside time to work on the business rather than in the business is a critical step to succeeding and growing as an independent professional. Remember, this is what the CEO or business development type role would be doing in a traditional sort of organization. And we are a business of one. So nobody said it would be easy, but I have a very long list of folks, including myself, who would agree that it's well worth the effort. So, Sarah, I wanted to circle back to your question here in regards to the fact that you have a variety of interests and jack of all trades. I love that. Me too. Working in startups, I had to learn to do all sorts of things. I would suggest that you try and find a way to focus your talents in a limited area. Reason being for that is, especially if you have your specialized profile, it's easier to sort of represent that. But if you have just a general profile that says, I do accounting, translating, and coding, these are all widely diverse skill sets. And while you may be fantastic at all of them, from the client perspective, I am looking for a coder, or I'm looking for a translator. I'm not looking for a translator slash coder. You know what I mean? So I know that it wouldn't detract from your quality of work showing all these diverse skills, but from the client perspective, they're usually there for a very specific reason and with a specific objective. So I have found, and I think the prevailing recommendations from those I've interviewed would be to try and focus down in a specific area. You can secure clients a lot easier that way. Alex, very, very valid point. Not just a coder, specific language, Python, SQL. I'm not very familiar with it, as you may tell. I'm a designer. I make pictures look good. But you're right, being very specific. Amelia, that's a great question. I'm just looking at that. As a top-rated freelancer for 14 years, looking to offer new skills without experience. In this one, I would make sure that you create your own portfolio items. So for me, when I first started doing graphic design, my only portfolio items were from one client, the client that I've been working for, which doesn't really show a well-rounded approach. So maybe similar to you not having a lot of longevity work-wise in a specific area, take time to create some portfolio items. In my experience, I designed a coffee shop logo and a coffee shop menu just to show that I could do it. Totally different than the high-tech flyers that I was doing. But things like that. So you can show your expertise even if you don't have longevity on that specific topic. So yeah, you absolutely can. I mean, you may have a little bit of a higher lift in the beginning if you don't have a lot to lean against. But if you've been on Upwork for quite some time, you will still have client reviews and ratings on your work, which will help. Cynthia, that's a great topic. We will be getting to that a little bit later. I'm gonna put a pin in that to continue on here, but thank you for voicing that. Let's see. So let's talk presentation next. So let's walk through a little scenario here. Have you ever purchased something like a fancy new laptop or a new phone or headphones, that type of thing, where the packaging kind of felt like an experience, like peeling that film off the TV screen for the first time? You know what I'm talking about? I know that Apple is famously good at this. Their product presentation and unboxing experience feels a bit like a special treat. Now, on the flip side, have you ever had something handed to you in a lackluster manner? Perhaps your food was served on a damaged or dirty plate, or your fancy new phone came in a Ziploc baggie. How would that make you feel? What effect does this have on how you perceive the value of the item? I wonder. Let's say I give you a new phone in a Ziploc bag, or I give you that same new phone in its fancy box. It's the same phone, but I know which one I think is more valuable. So let's consider that when we're turning in our work, right? Let's take a look at that. Are your portfolio items telling a story, or are they simply there? When I first started out in the graphic design space, I would simply upload my final design file, like the PDF or whatever, to my portfolio and call it a day. I would literally just put the file, hit update, and go about my business. While the work itself was good and it stands on its own, I was missing out on such a huge opportunity to use this hard work that I've already done, and to go out there and work for me moving forward. Is your work as good or even better than some of the higher paid independent professionals you see succeeding on Upwork? Consider how they're packaging their deliverables. Look at their portfolio. There are a variety of ways of showcasing your profile items. Experiment with the different presentation options, whether it's visually presentation-wise. That's a carousel, individual highlight, that type of thing. If you're not in a design-related industry, feel free to use stock images. They look great. Turn data into infographics. If you don't know how to do that, or you don't have the time or the design skill sets to do it, hire a simple designer to make it look sharp. Hire someone on Upwork. When clients are doing that initial skim on you to decide whether or not they want to even take a deeper look, let alone interview you, they're looking at those portfolio items. And if it looks boring or uninspired, I may not even open it. I may not even read it. So use the simple tools available to make it engaging. Package it nicely. Don't forget to put some context in your portfolio items, sorry. Write out the wins, the challenges you overcame, the client objectives and key points along the path to achieving project success. Maybe the client thought they wanted this, but due to your knowledge in the industry, you realized they wanted that. These are very compelling pieces of information. This sells you long before you ever talk to the person. So it's worth taking time to address these and tell the story. People are oftentimes willing to read a bit more when they've already bought into the initial graphic, that they looked at, the thumbnail. If that looks sharp and it was interesting, I'm going to read a bit more than I would typically. Also, your skills should be growing as you complete projects throughout the year. Make sure you're updating your portfolio frequently with your slick new assets and remove dated work which no longer reflects your best ability. I know that I look back on some of my early design projects and I cringe, and I'm glad my clients like them, but it's not my best work anymore. Your niche evolves as you grow as well, and are your portfolio items still aimed correctly? I know, especially in the tech world, coding languages move quickly. Different databases change pretty quickly. Make sure that you're keeping up to date with that. You may have been a rock star at how it was 5 or 10 years ago, but it shifts. Excuse me. And to make sure you're doing this on a regular basis, as I mentioned, business of one, I suggest literally scheduling calendar reminders every quarter to take a couple of hours to really do this with intention. I'm guilty of forgetting this frequently until I put it in my calendar. It'll be half a year or a full year before I update any of my portfolio items. It's not doing me any favors, and probably not you as well. All right, let's move into proposals. I'm going to start with the basics and then move into a little bit more of the nuance. So proposal basics, if you don't know, copy and paste a proposal fails every time. Everyone can tell, dear sir or madam, and then just a generic, uninspired, doesn't relate to anything of what I wrote. People don't read those. And if they do read them, they probably don't hire off them. Keep in mind that the proposal is not about you. The proposal is actually about your client's project and what you can do to make sure that goes smoothly and is delivered well and is of high quality. Make sure you're identifying the pain points. If you can identify some pain points from your client's posting, it's going to be super valuable in getting heard when you're writing that proposal for them. Extrapolate information about the client and the project. Sometimes they drop a company name. Sometimes they, say what industry they're working in. Sometimes you can look at the client, the reviews from freelancers that have worked with them in the past, and they'll mention this information, maybe their name, maybe the person's actual name there, which is great because then you can say, hello, Alex, or whatever their name is. Very helpful. Mirroring communication style. If the person who posted the job uses short bullet points exclusively, it's a wise idea that you sort of lean that direction in your proposal. If the person writes pages and pages of very detailed information, it would be prudent to provide some more information, or at least address all the different points that they asked for. And then, as we mentioned earlier, get to the point. So it's a bit overwhelming on the client side when you have 50 or 60 proposals to go through, and you still have your regular work to do. I came to Upwork just to get one project done, and now I've got to go through 50 or 60 proposals and profiles. Get to the point. It's a quick way to get on that short list. And then make sure you include a call to action, assuming that the client will just think you're sunshine and rainbows when you don't ask them to take an action is leaving some money on the table there. Say, hey, let's set up a call this week to discuss, any additional details and how I can best support you. Let's set up a call on Monday so I can walk you through my process of how we're going to get this done for you. Things of that nature. Asking questions is good, but only if they're useful questions. Don't ask a question just to ask a question, but be specific. Get to the point. Show them that you're paying attention to what they wrote. Now, let's get into more of the nuanced aspects of it. There's going to be some major variables on. If you're having any sound or video issues, just refresh the browser that you have there. That might be what you're experiencing. Sorry about that. There's going to be some major variables on how to polish up proposals depending on what type of work you do. Design is going to be a lot different than coding. It's just a fact. But there are some overarching themes which are applicable to any situation. Like with your profile overview, tell the story. You're the professional handling this project, right? What's your game plan? What can I expect as the client? How do we start? What do you need from me to get things going? How many chances do I have to review or amend the deliverables you're sending me? When and how are you going to keep me up to date on the progress of this project? These are all very important factors and a quick way for you to impart to the prospective client that I know what I'm doing. I'm a professional. I know the game plan. It's going to go smooth. This is what that tells me. So how are you standing apart from your peers? What do you bring to the table that I don't want to miss out on? Oftentimes you'll find that this is in more of the soft skills, the communication style, investing more than usual time in thought, research, or what have you, to provide higher level suggestions. These are ways that you can set yourself apart. There's a misconception that a lot of people have, especially when first starting out, that you're competing with everyone else for the same clients. While it may feel that way, there are massive amounts of clients coming in and out of the platform at any given moment. And not everyone's going to be the right fit for that client. Just because I may be the best at what I do here, I may not have the personal skills to connect with this person. And maybe the other independent professional does. So try and find what sets you apart. For me, I am very personable with my clients. They all feel that I will handle them correctly. I'm thinking about the things, the auxiliary pieces around what's going on. And I actually still have my first design client from many, many years ago because I take time to invest in my clients. I get Christmas cards from them, things like that. It seems silly, but it really does help. Just reading a question here from Amelia. Not in a design category. So I mentioned earlier, for those that are not in a design category, and I'll throw out some examples here. Let's say that I'm a data analyst or an accountant. These are not graphically engaging sort of portfolio items. What I can do though, let's say I'm in accounting, I can turn some of my success metrics into an infographic where it's visually engaging with statistics, numbers, colors, iconography, things of that nature. And if you don't know how to create those, no problem. Hire someone to do it. It's an easy job. You won't have to pay them very much, but find a way to make it visually engaging. Another way, as I mentioned, is to just use a stock image as a thumbnail, find a nice polished stock image, and then in your description, you have the nuts and bolts of what you did. There's a variety of ways. What I would suggest for some more specific examples is to look at what other talent on the platform are doing. For those that are not familiar with how to find that, you go to upwork.com. In the top right-hand corner, there is a search field, not the main one where you're looking for jobs, but in the top right-hand corner near your profile picture. By default, if you type in anything there, it will be looking at jobs. But if you click the little drop-down arrow, you can click on talent, which is us, the freelancers. Click on talent, hit enter. It'll take you to a new page where you can see all sorts of filters. I want to look at translators that are top rated, that have made over $10,000, whatever filter you're looking for. But with that, you can take a look at how do they display their portfolio items. Is there a consistent theme in what they're doing? Is there something that you can emulate in your own style that's using that same sort of elevated interaction? For those wondering, yes, the slides, not going to be sharing the slides directly, but the recording will be available here. I dropped that link. There's also a fantastic amount of resources on there, other events that we do throughout the year. So bookmark that site. Let me see here, come back here. So I want to get into thoughtful processes to level up your game. Prior to my journey as an independent professional, I mentioned I helped manage tech companies. And this involved a lot of interviewing events where I was on the hiring side of the table, both in person and on Upwork. And before getting into some of the specific suggestions listed here, I wanted to share something interesting from my experience hiring, something that I hear from a lot of other people that have interviewed who've been on the client side. You can almost always sense when someone is desperate for any job versus when someone who knows their value and is looking for the right job, not just any match. Now, while we may not always be able to disguise the fact that we'd probably happily take any job to get the cash flowing at times, I know it's true, been true for me, been true for other people, will be true again, I'm sure. We can control pivoting to areas that we are confident in and know that we are the right match. So given the option between two equally skilled professionals, I will pretty much always hire the one who is actually interested in my project, not just, hey, I'll do whatever work you want. Like, oh, Will, tell me more about what this project is. What's your vision for this? Have you considered these factors? I want someone who has passion on the topic and is really making me feel like they want to do this job, not just have to do something because this happens to be what's in front of me, if you understand what I mean. I care less about your impressively long list of software skills, coding languages, acronyms, than I do about connecting with someone who is happy to geek out with my project on me. With me, sorry. Let's see here. Dermot, to your point of well thought out proposals, in the past I've grabbed some examples. But oftentimes it's so specific to the type of work you're doing, the type of clients you're doing, and how you position yourself that I feel it can get a little bit tunnel vision. With that said, we've done some fantastic events on specifically proposals. There's some Talent Toolbox events where we talked to the Upwork coaches, where we took submissions from the audience, where they said, yeah, go ahead, put it up there and tell me what's right and what's wrong. Check some of those out. It's that link I posted in the community events. And there's also some fantastic exercises in the Academy, which I'm going to drop that link for us here as well. The Upwork Academy, constantly creating new courses, fantastic stuff. And they also usually have some sort of exercise aspect of it as well. So I'm going to go ahead and drop that link there. Perfect. So that's the Upwork Academy. Fantastic information in there as well. Highly recommended. So coming back to delivering assets, are you packaging things up nicely with a bow on top, or are you just hitting send on your attachment? Did you actually open up the file and check the attachment that you're sending one last time before sending it off? I know that this is a habit which I've been working on for ages. I'm going to be honest with you. I'll spend 4 intense days working on a project and I got it perfect, but I get weird tunnel vision and then I accidentally send a previous version of the file, or I didn't look at the file out of context of the software that I built it in. You know, it looks a lot different in Photoshop or InDesign than it does in the PDF file. You know, different lines, different creation, all sorts of things. It sounds super basic, I know, but it is a very common mistake and one that easily decays your client's trust in your professionalism. Remember, we're trying to give them the warm and fuzzy that they can just hand it to you and everything's going to be good. You don't want to erode that for something so easily avoided. And I know I'm guilty of this for sure. The client is measuring you on their experience working with you. It's not just the deliverables. It's the process that it took to get there and the simplicity in which you handed it to them. This is why taking the time during the onboarding and interview stage to establish key components and deadlines or expectations is so important. And a last point here I'll touch on, organize your file names. If it's multiple assets, put it in a nice folder, make it logical, make it professional, have an established system for it. I put an example here on the slide, final file version 3, for real this time. I think a lot of people can relate to that. I know that I've been guilty. Final for real. While it's all fun and games for us, you really don't want to be putting that in front of the client. Kind of gives off an unprofessional vibe. So let's avoid that. Writing proposals is a skill which develops over time for most. You're not going to, very rarely, you're going to nail it right out the gate. You're going to take some time to find your voice, to find how the clients best receive what you're trying to present. And it's absolutely worth investing the time and effort in perfecting. But in an effort to work smarter as opposed to harder, making an effort to retain clients and craft ongoing relationships removes a lot of unpaid time and effort from the experience. The few hours I could take in a day crafting a handful of really thoughtful and targeted proposals could instead be spent billing hours with an existing client in a well-worn groove of client request and my delivery, like a shorthand you get when we work with someone for an extended period of time. Don't let my passion for freelancing fool you. I wouldn't do it for free, and neither should you, ever. Value your time, or else your clients will not either. The most successful way I've found to retain clients and craft lasting relationships is to close projects out correctly. Now, there are a variety of ways to accomplish this, but this is what I personally use and still use, and I find it works pretty well. And in general sense, it's sort of applicable to anyone's situation. My first step, I've done the project, I send it to the client. I say, client, are you happy? Have I given you everything you need? Maybe they needed another file version to put it on the website as opposed to somewhere else, and they hadn't mentioned it. I give them the opportunity. Have I given you everything you need? Yes. Great. If the answer is no, I go back until I get that yes. Once I get that yes, I say, hey, as we close out this project, would you take a few minutes to provide some feedback? It really helps me find awesome clients to work with, such as yourself. It may sound cheesy, find your own way of saying it. It works. Take a look on my profile. Look, I'm not the top freelancer in the world. I'm not trying to sell myself that way, but I have all 5-star reviews and my clients are all happy. And it's because I take the time to make sure that client relationship is solid. Are you happy? Would you mind taking 2 minutes just to fill out that feedback? It matters to me. Remember, a lot of clients are brand new to Upwork. They don't know that this follow-up pop-up is important. A lot of people just go about their day. Let them know it's important and why it's important. And then third, before I close out the job is, hey, are there any other pieces that I can help you with? I know that in my industry, graphic design, if I do a logo for someone, a brand new logo, that probably means they need new flyers, they need new website, they need new business card. These are the auxiliary pieces I'm talking about as a professional in my space. I know that this affects this, this, and this. What does that mean in your space? If you're in translating, if you're in coding, if you're in whatever you're in, how can you logically say, how else can I help you with XYZ projects? So using this 3-prong approach, I get great reviews, I get long-lasting clients, and people are happy. Life is good. So I highly suggest you find your own version of the same one, but simply just sending the file and saying like, done, let's close out the job is a huge missed opportunity. It can be difficult to acquire clients. It can be difficult to spend all this time doing a project. And if you're leaving money on the table or a good relationship on the table by just simply quickly exiting the room, I think it's a shame, a real shame. Cool. So I want to dive into the Q&A section here. Thank you so much for going on this little journey with me today. And as I mentioned in the beginning, you will have an email in your inbox requesting some feedback and views. It really helps me curate quality events of topics that are of interest to you. So let me know. So let me stop sharing my screen here. I'm going to dig into some of the Q&A. I appreciate people that were answering each other's questions in the chat there. That's lovely. I love to see the community working together there. So, Daniel, great question. Is it okay to send a proposal if the client needs a specific freelancer location, even if you're not qualified based on the location, or is it a waste of a connect? I usually swing for jobs that even if I'm not in the right location. I will say a caveat. There are some specific types of projects where location matters immensely. Let's say photography. Oftentimes that's an in-person kind of thing. If I need someone to do a photo shoot in San Francisco and you live in London, probably going to exclude you from it. But oftentimes the clients are new to the platform. They don't really know what they're looking for. They don't know what to expect. And they may put a preference of, yeah, I'd like you to be in Egypt, but I'm not in Egypt. I'm still going to apply for it. And I'm going to say why. So if you feel the need, you can always justify, be like, hey, I know that you were looking for someone in X location. I understand that I'm not there, but it's not going to have any impact on me delivering awesome projects, something of that nature. So with a grain of salt, I'd say, no, don't let it stop you from applying to jobs. Not at all. The Academy website, I'll go ahead and drop it. I'm going to drop the Academy link in the general chat so everyone can see it. 1 second here, the general chat. Great question, Abir. After I took the Upwork Academy, can I win connects? I don't know off the top of my mind. I know that it was something that was discussed, but I don't know whether that's implemented or if it was possible. I will educate myself for next time, but I would look online and see if there's any dialogue about it. Like if you just do a Google search for Upwork Academy Connects, there may be some documentation on that, but I do not know the answer off the top of my mind. Let's see here. How do I respond to briefs that have been on the platform for days with a lot of proposals already sent? Thomas, that's a great question. And from the fantastic people I've interviewed over the years, there are varying opinions. And I've found that those varying opinions usually stem from what industry you're working in. For example, one of the most active industries in regards to clients posting jobs, the volume of jobs coming through at any moment, I believe is in the design field. I could be wrong. That may be last year's stats, but it close to the truth, if not the truth. So for me in the design space, I don't typically bid on older jobs unless I've worked in the industry. I know that company. I am like obviously fit like a glove. If that's the case, I may go ahead and apply. But if I see that there's already 60 proposals and it's 2 days old, I don't usually bother. However, people that have worked in the software engineering space, the WMSD categories, I have heard pretty consistently from those folks that the age of the contract doesn't matter as much. I think there's a smaller volume of jobs being posted, a smaller volume of people that are qualified to address those specific jobs. So in that space, from what I've heard, the age of the posting has much less of an impact, and the amount of people that have posted has less of an impact. So take that for what it is. I'm not sure what industry you work in, but that's my feedback for you on that one. Cynthia, it's a great question and a common occurrence, a hurdle that many people face. You know, you may be great at what you do, but until you have, I call it street cred on the platform, meaning 5-star reviews, clients that say it was great working with you, that sort of thing. Before you get that, it is a lot harder to get those jobs. The things that we've been discussing today are the best ingredients I can give you to work around for that. Think client-centrically, address their specific pain points, address the fact that, hey, I may be new to Upwork, but I'm not new to this industry. Check out my portfolio items. I've been rocking it for 15 years, whatever the case may be. But what you're experiencing is an archetypal hurdle for everyone that has ever done freelancing. Happened to me, happened to everyone that I've interviewed, where it is more of a challenge to get those jobs when you don't have those reviews to lean against just yet. It's a matter of consistent work, timing, and effort, but you can break through it, I promise you, and it is well worth it. Let's see here. Is it better to choose hourly or fixed price projects? Patricia, that's a great question. And I think a lot of people are going to have a lot of different answers. Let me instead outline some logics on why I would choose one over the other. Let's say that I'm new in my industry. I'm brand new to graphic design. I've only been doing it a little bit. I'm still learning as I go. That's fine. We all are. In that case, I may want to hesitate doing fixed price contracts because it may end up taking me a lot longer than I expect. The client says, oh, it's a 10-minute job. There's no such thing as a 10-minute job in my world. There isn't. There's just people that don't understand the software and think it's a 10-minute job. So if you don't already know how to measure how long your projects will take, fixed price can get you into a bit of hot water where you're spending weeks on something that you thought would take hours, and then you're getting a much lower dollar per hour sort of rate. So I would advise, if you are still feeling that out, maybe lean towards the hourly. But on the flip side of the coin, once you know your industry, I know exactly how long it takes me to build a logo. I know how many reviews it typically takes, which is about two revisions from my experience. But I know the time it will take, so I can confidently state my fixed price, and then maybe that would have indicated that it would take me 6 hours to do. But I'm good at this now. I've got my processes dialed in. I can actually do this a lot quicker. So I'm actually getting paid higher per hour. I hope that makes sense. The Mythical Man Month is a great literature on the topic. Alex, I'd love to hear more about what you're talking about there. It's an intriguing title. For Minor, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I apologize. Client sent you an offer without any discussion on what they needed. They've since sort of ghosted, disappeared on the project. This happens sometimes. Is why it's so important to keep everything on Upwork platform, like discussions, contracts, payments, all that sort of stuff. Because if you end up doing work and they ghost you, can't help you if it's off platform. But the reality of the situation is sometimes clients get busy. You remember how I said earlier in the presentation, oftentimes a client is on the platform to handle one piece of the big project that they're actually working on. Oftentimes, this little piece, which to you is the piece, that's the whole picture, but it's only a piece to them. In that situation, sometimes life gets busy. Sometimes boss says, no, we're going to go a completely different direction. There's a million variables. Sometimes that happens. That's why it's so important to be maintaining your pipeline all the time. Just because you have a job for today does not mean you shouldn't also be working on jobs for tomorrow. You need to sort of build that sort of wheel and keep it turning, which requires attention on many different points. Estimates in the software industry. That's a fantastic resource, Alex. Thank you for sharing that. Let me see. Got time for a few more questions here. Jump back into the general chat here. Karen, you're an editor, and what are some good words to say when someone wants a sample edit of a paragraph like an interview? So I'm going to sort of extrapolate this out to be applicable to anyone. When a client wants sample work from you before they hire you, they want to try it before they buy it. Especially clients that are new to the platform might expect that they can ask you to do that for free. Like, hey, before I hire you for this $3,000 job, would you go ahead and show me what you can do with this to prove that you're good at what you do? Never do your work for free. And I'm going to say that unequivocally. And it comes down, for me, it's a psychological thing that I found very true. I used to think, oh, if you give away a few samples, you get work. But the fact is, if you're willing to give it away for free, they're going to expect it for free, or they're going to think it's not quality and fight you when you try and say what you'd actually like to get paid. So if a client is not willing to invest a very nominal upfront $30, let's say, to figure out if you're going to be the right match for this $3,000 or $5,000 project, probably don't want that client anyway. And I would typically say to that client, hi, I can't do work for free. What I would suggest is we set up a small milestone at first. I will do this first sort of test project for you. Once you're happy with it, and once you know that I'm the right match for you, I don't say if, I say when. When you know that I'm the right match for you, we can go ahead and revisit this contract and scope at that time. But I never give it away for free. It may feel like the right thing in the moment, but it will hurt you more than help you. I promise you that. Just looking through some of the chat here. There's a lot of dialogue. I find it very difficult to read and talk at the same time, so I'm going to catch up here. Yes, Sarah, you're absolutely correct. It is hard sometimes to make the clients understand how long it takes to complete a project. I mentioned earlier, one of my favorite sayings from a client is, oh, could you just make this edit? It'll just take a minute. No, nothing takes a minute. I'm sorry. Very, very few things will take a minute. And to make the client understand that can be frustrating at certain times. So I would find a polite and political way to phrase that in however it works for you. Something to the degree of to achieve the level of professionalism and quality in my delivery, I never rush my creation of these assets. As a result, what you're asking for will actually take X amount of billable time, or will be worth this much. I say yes, but, and I quantify why. I found that the people that are worth working with and investing in are happy to pay the price for your work because they want good work. And if you're just doing a million tiny jobs, you're not giving the level of detail and attention to the job that they may want. So I'd rather pay for you to give me your undivided attention than have it split. Great question, Andrej. Is taking hourly jobs as the beginning of fair to clients, as that freelancer is basically charging clients to learn something they should already know? That's a very good point. Thank you for bringing it up. And let me expand upon that example that I used. I agree with you, and that would be, in my opinion, deceitful, or it would just be, it wouldn't leave me feeling good and honest if I were doing that. So in the examples where I've taken on jobs where I kind of know how to do it, but more specifically, I know how to Google how to do it, and I have the tools, which is just honestly a part of it. In those situations, I don't typically bill for the hour and a half I spent before the project learning how to do what the project is. I will bill for while I'm doing it, but within reason. I know that's a bit of a mercurial answer, but I think you have a barometer, or most people do, in your heart, and you know when you're ripping someone off, and you know when you're being honest. And I would advise you lean into that. Right? I hope that answers your question. I know it's a bit vague. Thank you, Cynthia. I really appreciate that. Yeah. Do you refer to other freelancers like an editor for design elements or an illustrator for a book I've edited? Have I referred work to other freelancers? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm going to back up a second. This makes me think of a topic that I'm passionate about, and it sounds a bit harsh at first, but let me get through it. I'm very quick to fire clients. Very quick. I've been doing this long enough that I know what's a good match and what isn't. Like when you first get into a new relationship and you see those red flags and you're like, no, I'm sure they'll be okay. I'm like, no, I don't have time for it anymore. So what I do is when I know, whether it's at the beginning of a relationship or sort of halfway through, I sort of realize, I'm not the right person for you, Mr. or Mrs. Client. When I realize that at any point, I exit the relationship, but I do a specific step to make sure that I'm not leaving them high and dry and they're like, oh, that Will guy is a real jerk. Let's say that someone thought they wanted a graphic designer to make a website, but what they actually needed was a mobile developer because they want to make a mobile, version of it. As an example, I don't know how to do that. That's not my skill set. And while I could Google it and funnel my way through it, I don't want to. That's not my niche. So what I would say is, client, it sounds like what you're actually needing is a mobile software developer. I would suggest that you, in your job posting, you put up a new posting looking for this individual, and I suggest that you have these 3 points. They're going to need to know these softwares. They're going to need to know these skills. I suggest you include that in your posting. So while I have fired the client, I no longer want to work with them. I've given them a path to follow to find what they need. And while not everyone may be thrilled on that experience, very few people get upset about it. Most people, at the very least, respect the help that I provided to them. So I hope that answers in a roundabout way. Finding high-ticket projects in the design area. Patricia, as with any industry, I think it's important to spend some time immersing yourself in the flow of jobs, meaning you don't have to be looking at every job posting with the aim of already crafting your proposal. Sometimes I just read different job postings. I put different filters on, create different views, and look for only jobs that are $5,000 or more, or whatever your benchmark is. And I see in these high-paying jobs, which to me that's a high-paying job, in those high-paying jobs, are there themes? What can I learn? Are they all using similar buzzwords? Are they all expressing a similar desire or a desire to not experience something? I try and find out what's going on before jumping into it. That way, when I take a swing at those jobs, I come across like I know what I'm talking about. So taking time to just bathe in the space that you work in is useful. You don't get dollars immediately, as I mentioned earlier, but it equates to bigger dollars later. I promise you that. Oh, Terrell, congrats on starting an agency. That's so exciting. Good news for you. Q1 coming up in January, I'm doing a lot of events focused specifically on agencies. We're going to be talking to Adam Palmer, who is absolutely fantastic, has created a very successful agency and is super passionate about sharing his secret sauce. We're going to be talking a whole bunch of different events on agencies, how to, assets, things of that nature. Keep an eye out. I'm going to post this link again here for where you can not only see the recording of this event in a few days, but where you can see what's upcoming on events. You may not always see the invite in your inbox. So bookmark that site. It's worth it. And keep an eye out in Q1. There's going to be a lot of different agency ones. I, for one, I'm not well versed on agencies, but I do feel like that would be the next iteration of my freelancing. I've sort of gotten the best I'm going to get at graphic design. I'm never going to be the best graphic designer. That's just a fact. I'm good, but I'll never be the best. I might be better served by managing an agency. My real skill set is business management. I'm much better at that than I am at design. So I'm very interested to learn that as well. Folks, we've come up to time. I don't want to take any more of your time. I got to as many of those questions as I could here. Just a quick reminder, in your inbox is a feedback survey. Take a few minutes, tell me what you think. What do you want to hear about? What do you want to learn about? What was great? What was not? This isn't just for me to hear myself talk. This is for you, and I love it. Also, I want to challenge you before we end this. What are you going to do that's different that you'd learned today? Are you going to try something new in your proposals? Are you going to be taking a little bit of A/B testing in your overviews? What's your takeaway? What are you going to do? I challenge you to try something new. Try out some of these techniques. And that, yes, there is going to be a replay of this event. It's in that link that I just posted with the events, Upwork events. You'll see that in probably about maybe 3 days on the same link you used to register. All right. Everyone, this has been so much fun. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to doing more of these more intimate sessions where we're engaging with one another. So thank you so much. Welcome that feedback. And I look forward to seeing you next time.